This is Bad Professor here, and I'm going to tell you the 3 reasons the gap exists. If you've watched any of my videos, if you subscribe to the channel, you know that what I've done is create the gap for religious people to complain. So whether you like religion, whether you like atheism and their angry militant horde, whether you are you have affection for either side, doesn't really matter at this point. I'm creating the gap. I'm going to tell you the top 3 reasons the gap exists. And the last one is new, and the last one is weird, and the more I talk about it, the weirder it is. But the first one is the same one I've talked about a couple times. I've put a little twist on it, and it is the fact that the universe is empty. So if the universe is empty, you should start wondering, which means the gap. So the gap is when you can't resolve what you're experiencing in reality. Science tells you something, your friend tells you something, philosophy tells you something, and it just doesn't work, bro. And so if it doesn't work and you're missing something and there's this huge gap area where supposedly reason and logic and science and prove it, bro, should exist and doesn't, something's happening in that gap. I've said that's the man behind the curtain. That's why I'm making a lot of these videos. They are to support the idea that there's a gap. Now, if you want to fill the gap in, embarrass yourself, that's fine. My job is to create the gap, and I'm doing it without science. I'm not going to show you why the universe is empty by myself traveling to every solar system. So I'm going to talk about 2 things really quick for this first one, the empty universe idea. You can go watch the other video where I discuss it and embarrass myself in depth, and then some dude stole my video and put it on his channel and then tried to embarrass me, which is impossible to do because of my looks. The first one is that study from the UK, I think it was back in the 80s or 90s, about how unlikely it is to duplicate the complexity of what ends up being life. And so when you look about all the steps for 6.5 billion years, however long it's been, I don't care, I'm not a scientist, going from the little wet rock, the algae on the rock, all the way to man embarrassing himself on the global stage today is a complete failure. That's foreshadowing. When you look at that process, the unlikelihood and the precision and all of the things, I'm not saying the precision proves anything at this point. I'm saying that the study and these academics at Oxford, I think it was Oxford, were made the case that there was up to a 99% chance that there's no way, given all of the solar systems and potential planets, that there would be life. Even with this crazy number, still 99% chance it can't happen. And that's a science statement in itself. I get that. But what I'm trying to say is it shouldn't be that empty, which brings me to number 2, which is that, this is actually 1.5, and it's that we would know by now. There'd be so many garbage floating in space. This is what the guy didn't like about my video, my wild ideas. I think given 6,000 years, given our ability to look back through records, given our ability to know everything that happens on Earth today, even though we pretend we don't, we would know, bro. And advanced civilizations obviously would easily be able to contact us. There'd be no reason not to. I mean, yes, we're embarrassing, but you would contact us to laugh. I can imagine what I would say. But here's something I want to add to it, though. This is the number 1 still. And that is that with this complexity, this 99% chance that it couldn't exist, why is life so complex? Why is life so strangely complex? And that in itself, to me, brings up this gap idea. And at least let me talk about that for a minute, because you could imagine why you wouldn't have to look at it and say, this is so ridiculously long, billions of years, so slow, so precise, and still ending up at the level of complexity we have. You can imagine different levels of complexity and of life itself. I'm not talking about a man. I'm talking about to duplicate life should be fairly easy. And I'm not saying it's easy for us. I'm saying every planet should have a little bit of life. And I don't know why I get in trouble for saying shit like that, because that's a common sense statement. It is, in some sense, a non-philosophical statement. It is more regular common sense. But it is also true that every planet could have a little bit of life to different degrees. We could have half people, a couple of solar systems. We got nothing. That's number 1. Number 2 is that physics failed. And the way I see it after making 100 of these videos, and I know some people agree and some people really don't agree, bro. Physics was science's last stand. Quantum mechanics and what it's evolved into now, some of these strange physics that have tried to make up for the failures of quantum mechanics, like string theory and multiple world theory, they're like the panpsychics of science. And this is the case I want to make. I want to make the case that in the 1800s science was booming. The 19th century it took off. 20th century we got a lot of stuff, even though the world started to fall apart around 1910. That's pretty early in the 20th century. I don't have to tell you why, but I am telling you that science today, if looked back at clearly, shows a system which has provided very little benefit. We could all be in the woods happier today. This is what I've said to a lot of people recently. Put me in the, I'm about ready to move to the woods, trust me. Internet sucks, phones are embarrassing, lack of social interaction is more than embarrassing. This is what I've said. I have said, give me penicillin, I'm gone. And I don't mean I need penicillin now, bro. Come on. The strip club wasn't that bad. Yeah, it was. No, I don't go to strip clubs anymore. What I'm saying is I would need access to penicillin, potentially. I like that invention. Everything else done. Science failed in this regard. Is science to blame? Maybe not. Maybe it's man. But science being used by man is science. And if it never works and it provides us with very little benefit after 300 years and really longer than that, we've got a problem. We've got a huge problem. And what I've said is that physics becoming this game, physics is a game. Don't kid yourself. You're mad at me again. Go in the comments, say you're a physicist. Like everyone, I don't know how many physicists are out there. They're everywhere. When I make a video, go watch it on the big channel. It's like every comment. I'm a nuclear physicist with 6 PhDs, and I'd like to tell you that physics isn't about answers. It's about struggling with these difficult tensions within the probability and the induction of. Bro, you're right. I don't get it. But I don't get it because I'm not a scientist and because it's dumb. Physics failed. They cannot agree. They cannot come up with solutions to anything. Everything is math. That math is circular, which means it only produces its own results for its own system and not for any other system. When you listen to Einstein, wait, it was like 1915, bro, when I said the world started to end. Einstein was like, oh, yeah, this quantum mechanics shit's off the rails. It's a big failure. And he knew it too, and that's when he started to change. But he was also foreshadowing what we have today, which is a failure of quantum mechanics and science. And when you look at string theory and shit like that, again, not a physicist for multiple reasons. One, that I'm too dumb. But string theory is just this last ditch effort. Science has failed. Why does that create a gap? Because science was our way of filling that gap. It really was. We do have questions about where we come from, where we're going, all this shit. Science has provided nothing. And really, the hope for physics and then quantum mechanics and then the advancement of quantum mechanics was that we would get some of these answers. We would get unification principles. We would get progress within quantum mechanics. We could see protons and electrons. Bro, we can do all kinds of shit. We can do nothing in physics today that we couldn't do in 1915. I know I'm so wrong on that. But I bet substantially and in a philosophy sense, it's true. That's just a guess. Don't get mad. What I'm saying is physics has failed. That was your effort to fill in the gap. That failed. Your question might be why it failed. And I'm going to get to number 3, which clears this whole thing up, but creates the gap. Number 3 is that humankind, mankind, even though I'm using the wrong gender pronoun, that's why we failed, has failed. It's completely failed. You don't see something fail all at once. What you do is you realize the wars never stopped, the political systems never coalesced, none of our political systems ever worked. Income inequality is on a rise, fascism is on the rise, even though fascism is just a necessary reaction to people being out of control, not learning, not knowing, not having process intelligence, making mistakes, needing more police power to get in there to save them. That's a rant right there, bro. And another video. Humankind has proven to be a failure. And so you might say, why does this create the gap? Even if you agree, which I'm sure you don't, everyone's going to tell me how wonderful man is. But given this way after Hobbes assertion that I'm making, that mankind has proven himself to be unsuccessful, given that, why would that prove a gap? And the answer is, with the complexity that we have, the failure of man is a coincidence. And I've said this before, my reason for believing the gap personally is coincidence. And so coincidence takes a lot of forms, it's everywhere, it does different things. I think just looking at an object on a table produces certain kinds of coincidence for me. I can, it's a whole nother video. I'm just saying I see a lot of coincidence. The older I get, the more aware I get of it. And one of those things is that you develop this creature able to think that then doesn't think to its own detriment and destroys itself. That's a huge irony and coincidence that really logically, if you step back and reasonably, doesn't make sense. Doesn't it can't happen. So something's making that happen. So does this promote the benevolent God idea? No. Does it promote we don't know God idea? Probably not, because I don't like that word. Does it promote the idea that someone's behind the curtain? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Someone's running this shit. It's the only reason we get to this kind of refined craziness. And so I know I'm sounding like a lunatic. I'm a philosophy professor. I put out these good, balanced, wonderful, um, rhetoric-based videos on my channels, and yet it does kind of piss me off. And I am telling you the truth. And there is a reason to think there's a gap. And I think philosophy is the answer to figuring that gap out, not science, as I pointed out in the second one. And what I want to show you is that if we don't switch to that, we're not going to have any better awareness of what this gap is, what it's doing to us, what it means, and how the few of us that are capable of getting out of it, that's me, I'm in the little bucket, uh, are able to have the path. So I'm going to have to end the video. Three things: empty universe, the end of physics, and mankind has failed. Completely, bro. Those are the three reasons. They just don't add up. Too much coincidence. Man behind the curtain. You fill in the gap. That's your gap theory. Thanks for coming.